Nilijifunza kushona nguo kwa mwanamke, kufundisha mashine ya kimama.
Welcome to our final conversation in this International Women's Month series with Hero Women Rising, where we have been highlighting young women who are leading global change. Today, we are joined by Miriam Nsekonziza, founder of Arame Rwanda, whose work sits at the intersection of health, innovation, and systemic social change. Miriam, before we dive in, can you introduce yourself and share a bit about the work that you've been leading?
Hi, Ariana. Thank you very much for having me today. My name is Miriam Nsekonziza. I am Rwandan, just turned 30, and I am a social innovator, and I am a graduate of global health. So everything I do is around health, and I love reading. And I think those things shape how I've ended up here on the screen, I assume.
One of the things that you assume, you are being honored. You're being honored this month. And one of the things that we are really compelled by at Hero Women Rising in regards to your work is how you've centered your work on addressing adolescent pregnancy, which is an issue that impacts millions of young women globally. So can you talk a little bit about the moment when you realized that this is the problem that you are called to solve?
I see. Well, I assume that's how I ended up here because the things that I mentioned were mostly around the things that have shaped me, and that they shaped the answer to this question. I did a part of medical studies, like literally trying to become a doctor, but it's a story for another day. I did not end up becoming that doctor, and I went into global health. And the time that shaped knowing that I actually want to work on teen pregnancy is when I joined the African Leadership University as a student. They mostly focus on trying to put in our mind that we are starting to be global leaders in Africa, leaders that we need to see in our spaces. And every course, every lesson did mention think about something in your community that is close to your heart and you want to solve. So I did participate in a few things. And when I started in 2017, the issue of teen pregnancy was on the rise. And in 2019, I joined one of the UNFPA campaigns trying to learn about reproductive health for adolescents. And the naivety that I found in girls in the community when I went deep down there doing research and doing data collection is when I was like, oh, this is a big issue. There's a problem of teenage pregnancy, and the teens do not see this as a problem, and they're getting pregnant for the wrong reasons. So that's when I was like, I need to do something about it. Because when I started, it was about health education. And until now, I'm still finding ways to educate them, integrating innovation, but still the goal is to educate young girls.
Yeah. And so you've talked about how when this started, you thought it was an education issue. And then maybe, perhaps you thought it was a medical issue, but to come out of this and really just begin to describe adolescent pregnancy and position it as a systemic challenge, what would you say changes when we start to think about adolescent pregnancy as a systemic challenge across the globe?
Well, the thing that changes when we think about it as a systemic change is we change how we solve it. So, but to explain a little bit why it's a systemic change, it's yes, we see the problem as a young girl under 18 who's pregnant, but there are so many root causes, right? Some are pregnant because they literally have been raped, cases that should be lawyered up, I would say, in the security organs. Others are pregnant on purpose because they thought, maybe if I get pregnant, this person will love me. And that goes down to when we were educating, how did we empower this girl to find confidence in herself, find purpose in her life, not to just be trying to look for some sort of validation through risking her life and getting pregnant at such an age. like I said, an education issue when you talk to girls. And I remember the 2019 when I decided this is going to be something I want to work on, to keep working on. Basically, I was talking to a 14-year-old girl who had a 2-year-old child,
Wow.
and I was like, "How did you get pregnant? Like, what happened?" And she said the person who got her pregnant convinced her to have sex with him because he said, "Oh, girls don't get pregnant during the day. So when it's daylight, you can get pregnant." And just like, this guy likes me, he loves me, he's not lying. So she fell for that lie, something as really plain lie like that, and she got pregnant. So there's education, there's personal building character, and then there's system, the leadership, the local leadership. How do we solve issues like GBV related to health? How do we help girls? Choice, family planning, things like those, right? So it's there's an integration of so many things that we have to do for us to actually solve this teen pregnancy. So when we think about it as a system, then we go for the solvable root causes.
Now, you talked about how Rame Rwanda emphasizes solutions that are both community driven and data driven, which is a important intersection. And one of the things that you touched on, and we touched on in some earlier conversations too, in how young women are thinking about global impact, is centering the communities that are being affected or impacted. So can you talk about why it is so critical that solutions are coming from within the communities that are affected rather than being imposed from the outside?
Okay. Yeah. This My answer comes from an experience with both Arami as well as my work. I've worked with NGOs, and NGOs bring solutions to the community all the time, and we've seen the same solutions being brought to the communities to solve an existing problem, and we've had the same problems for a long time, pretty much all the time. Because if we were solving things that in an efficient way, teenage pregnancy wouldn't be existing. So when I say it's important for us to actually create solutions that are originating from the community, human-centered, it's we solve it in ways the community will accept and be part of. Because when I just show up and say, I think I can create an app that helps girls track their menstrual cycle, and this all tech savvy talking things, and I'm creating for people who don't even have phones, or if they do, they don't have smartphones. This solution, we invest money, we get grants, donors are excited about the whole application, but it doesn't work. Because then when you talk to the girl, she'll be like, please, I'm trying to find money to get a sanitary pad. Why are we talking about apps at the moment? So when we design solutions for the community, there's ownership. They become part of it. Another thing I've seen, even in other solutions, even working with water related issues, you go to the community, you bring a solution, they think about it as something that either can benefit them at the moment. So they're looking for either tangible benefits at the moment. Can I attend this workshop and get some money, transportation? Can I attend this facilitation? Like, they're looking for tangible things at the moment, or they just completely ignore whatever you bring because they think you're just there to make money off their problems.
Yeah.
So if we design solutions with them, go ahead. If we design solution with them, then they see it as something that is actually out there benefiting for them. Because I've literally seen young girls not showing up for some of our programs because they say, you're not giving us money, and we believe you have money because we have these issues.
You talk about water and transportation and access to capital. And so I've heard you mention non-medical health issues. Can you talk about what that means and why our systems need to take those factors more seriously?
Well, like I said, with the system, I believe when we talk about public health, there's so many other factors, right? There's the environment, there's the politics, there's things that directly and indirectly affect the problem we're trying to solve right now. So those non-medical health issues, they tend to not become an emergency, right? They because somebody's not bleeding. Forgive me for using that example. If it's not an emergency, somebody is not bleeding, somebody is not dying at the moment, we tend to just push things on the side, but we know it's affecting the health. When right now, the programs we have at the office, we have teen mothers and young girls who are not mothers coming to the office for some crafts lesson. When you look at a 16-year-old girl who has a baby, she has so many other factors in the community, the environment, the things that help her health, the nutrition, the way she thinks about herself, her image. She didn't go to school or she went to school. Conflicts around their families and things to do with that affect her as a whole. So we tend to think about those things as they are a problem, but let's solve health insurance first, which is not a bad thing. But I'm saying there are other factors, the environment, the other systemic issues that are health determinants, but very much put on the side. And if we were to fix those, there's a very high percentage that possibility that we cannot find issues like adolescent pregnancy, especially unintended. Because I tend to think that even if we solve this, sometime a teen will want to get pregnant. Maybe they want a baby, and you can't stop them because you were not there anyways. So I would say there are factors like environment, immediate physical affecting them, or even those that affect the mental, especially in this time where we see a lot of mental health issues related to either these problems or causing these problems. So I say those things that are non-emergency, like literally blood and need medication tablets, they still are very important if we're trying to solve issues like adolescent health.
Mm-hmm. And so what you're talking about is addressing these non-medical health issues or these systemic issues that aren't exactly health issues, and how in solving for those things we could see sustainable change. And I know that you've worked across NGOs and entrepreneurship, even development spaces as well. And can you talk a little bit about how those experiences have helped you develop a very keen eye and understanding of what sustainable change actually looks like when it happens?
Those spaces, I'm still in those spaces.
Right.
RMA is something I do full time, and jobs is something I still do full time. So it's still 2 full times. But I would say these things affect the way I look at sustainability, in a sense that, one, we've already mentioned it, designing for the community. Now that I have a say in how we design the programs, I mostly want to talk to the people I'm designing for so that I can design with them. I don't want to spend donors' money if we're just going to show up like any other project. Those kind of projects that I'm working on. Other projects in NGOs, I'm applying, I get the job. There's some things I can't change because the program is already designed by the time we get the grant. But for Arame, we want to work with the community. That's one way NGOs and entrepreneurship has shaped. Another thing is around the way we use funds, right? We are trying our best to avoid handouts, because we are working with people who have issues, but also have a very, very problematic entitlement mentality, where when they see a program coming in the community, they want to stay poor, they want to stay in the vulnerable zone, not literally, but they want to stay in a place where they want to receive. Right. So if you bring any program where you're trying to push them to think like they can solve their own issue, it's very hard. But I can see results versus to other programs I've just been in NGO and we're doing handouts. For the entrepreneurship experience, like I said, I'm a social innovator, social entrepreneur. I am trying my best to solve teenage pregnancy using solutions that can actually generate resources, can generate funds, to generate money, so that we can rely less on funds. Right now, we're actually starting an online shop for bags, crochet bags, very nice looking bags made by these teen mothers, so that they can make some money and depend less on either those who still live with their husbands or those who still live with families, because it's a very hard life. They need a lot of things and they can't afford it. So we're giving the skills and trying to create the business for them, because giving the skills and letting them figure it out on their own has become a little bit challenging. So starting a business and helping them sell the products they're making is one thing that I know I've borrowed from entrepreneurship and coaching, and saying we could actually solve a social issue using business mindset. So yeah, I still use those skills here and there. And I can say sustainability is really about learning, accepting changes. I'm very open to, oh, we designed this, we thought it would work, but it's not working. We wanted with this group of people, they would do this, but they're not doing it. So we're flexible to change things as we go.
Yeah. And so you talked about, well, first, I love how that model has developed in your work, and we've seen success with a similar model at Hero Women Rising, and so definitely want to see how that evolves as time goes on. You've raised concerns about funding and being creative around funding. And so you've talked about the lack of sustained funding for youth-led initiatives. Why is that? Why do you think that youth-led solutions struggle to receive long-term support? And I think we see this truly we see it globally. But why do you think youth-led solutions can't really seem to receive long-term support?
Well, I want to think it's for two reasons. It could be more, but there's two reasons are the most. One is youth or young people are not in the spaces where these funds or donations are being planned. So we don't have much say in where these funds are allocated. So we don't have our voices out there with big philanthropy institutions. We're not influencing how they think about investing, right? So that brings to the second reason where we say young people are learning, right? Very few people are willing to donate or invest a big amount of money, a large amount of money to projects that are still learning. As I say, they want to invest in places where they are sure about either the returns or the impact. And to be honest, big organizations which are not youth-led, they don't necessarily always bring the results. They just know how to work with the system. Sometimes they know how to present the data, which doesn't mean they're the ones doing the impact. Most of them have actually adopted the methodology of getting a grant, looking for a local youth-led institution that is going to implement the actual work, and then they report that work. So I say not being in the spaces, but also being, especially the young people this generation, we are willing to try things. And the older generation are not yet on board with the idea of giving 20,000, 50,000 US dollars to a youth-led organization that is trying. Because they're like, what if you try and it actually fails? Then we change, but they're not yet ready for that. We're not ready for that conversation. So the other thing is, to be honest as well, young people also developing, we are jumping from place to place, right? We could get grants and it doesn't work, and we're like, this is not working. How about I change into this? We're still learning. So the idea of a learner being given consistently money for improvement requires people who are really willing to trust young people to make the change, but also be there to mentor them, allow them to make mistakes. And then that way we are sure that the money is being used for what it was required to use. And that way we're also sure that the impact is going to eventually come along, because we are the people designing for people who are closer to us in age. And that way we're sure the funds will be used in more innovative and youth-friendly programs, if I would say. So yeah, if we would be in those spaces and be allowed to actually experiment, sustainability of funds and donations to young people would actually be a thing.
I think this is a really important point, because what we're seeing with the younger global leaders is this calling upon the philanthropic community to be willing to and flexible enough to fund progress over proof, right? And so when we think about systemic change as a whole, if we had full on proof then of what works, then we would implement it across the board and we wouldn't need it anymore, right? But funding systemic change and funding impact work and innovative impact work, like the work that you're doing, really is
Mm-hmm.
about being willing to invest in progress,
Mm-hmm.
incremental progress, versus wanting to see hard proof and data. Because often when you think about systemic change, the proof that we're able to show to the philanthropic community is not really getting at the impact that we really need to solve. It's funding the progress and being willing to see the increments of success in progress. And so I'm glad that you brought that up. I encourage folks who are watching that are in the funder community and philanthropic community to just sit with that and consider what transformation you can create for
Mm-hmm.
organizations like Arame Wawanda, um, if you were willing to fund and lean into innovative progress from young people over the proof of larger NPOs and NGOs. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a tangent, but I'm really glad that you brought that up. And so when we
Mm-hmm.
think about next funding the next generation and the ideas of the next generation and younger people, if Arame Rwanda were to fully realize its vision over the next decade, right? What transformation would we see in the lives of young women and girls? What would be real for them?
Well, Ariana, to put it in a simple statement, I would say the change we want to see is to see young girls make informed decisions. That could lead to either having a baby or not, or going to school or not, but informed, right? We want to eliminate any reason to say this person was, they just fell into the consequences of whatever decision they make. So if we were to have less and less teenage pregnancy, which is our goal, because we want girls to stay in school, we want girls to get employed, we want girls to develop and have babies at a better time in the future when they want to. We want to talk to every one of those girls and say, what influences your decision? And we see real, factual, correct information. So the goal is to have them think about whatever they want to do, right? See if they have a future, think about that future, and make every step towards that future consciously. So I would say I like to not tell people that we're looking at zero teenage pregnancy, because I'm not sure if that's possible. It's not believing in our mission, but it's to say somebody can consciously decide to actually have a baby when they're a teen. But we don't want to find a girl who's a teen mother out of rape that was not even punished, the rapist or whatever. We don't want the girl who's pregnant because they were looking for means to either survive or find a better life, and that way they ended up pregnant. So we don't want those kind of issues. We want girls who are out there living lives intentionally with better health outcomes. So that would be what the community would look like, will look like when we achieve our goals, because we're doing this until yes.
Until you solve for it.
Mm-hmm.
We solve for it.
Yeah.
As we close out, can we do a lightning round? Are you game for
No,
that?
go ahead.
All
Go
right.
ahead.
Let's do a quick lightning round. So, a leader who has really deeply influenced your thinking.
A leader. Well, I have a mentor, and he has really been on my side, championing every idea, well, shaping it. And so that person in my life has been a leader, because he leads by example. He's been doing that impact himself. So, yeah, that person. He's called Hassan.
We all need mentors. So
Mhm.
that is really important. Can you talk about a book or idea or experience that has changed how you see the world?
Oh, wow. well, the kinds of books I read, I'm not sure those ones I share, but I remember one book that I read by one of my earlier employers called The Slight Edge by Jeff Osloon. I remember. It was a book influence talking about how tiny habits influence the bigger results. So any moment, anything that I contribute to Adame or in my personal life, I tend to come back to that concept of what I've done today. How if it keeps adding up, how will it look at the end of the day? So slight edge.
Slight edge. I'll have to put that on my reading list.
Very
One thing communities can do immediately to support young mothers.
well. The first thing is to hear them out. They are young mothers, so we tend to want to think that they're mature adults as soon as they have babies. These are teenagers. They still think as teenagers even with babies. Sometimes you look at their decisions even in their parenting and it's questionable, and it's rightfully so because they're young mothers. So hearing them out and helping them as children, if I would say, as young children, not as mothers, because we tend to take out the young and expect them to figure life out. So hearing them out, and I would say another thing would be supporting them, not just in handing them out, making them handicapped, no, but supporting them out in the initiative. Because we've actually seen, we're facing one of the challenges we face in our program is people in the community discouraging them in any effort they make to make progress. They're like, oh, sit down, you're a mother. Why are you moving around with other young girls, especially in programs where it's combined with young girls who don't have mothers? So we really should be the champion of the development we want to see in these young mothers.
Well, Miriam, you represent a generation of leaders who are not only identifying challenges, but redesigning the systems that shape people's lives and championing, like you said, the communities that are so deeply affected by these global issues. So as we close this series, we invite you, our audience, to continue supporting Hero Women Rising and the young women leading change across the globe. Miriam, thank you so much for being a part of this conversation and for all the work that you are building and doing internationally.
Thank you very much.